everybody. So I got to do something recently I haven't got to do in a very long time, and that is to run a session in here in the studio. I got to track some drums the other day working with a Toronto band called Lucid Movement. And I unexpectedly came across something I'm pretty proud of, and that's a massive snare sound that I got without having to touch an equalizer. And it really blew me away with the results we got, and I wanted to share this tip with you guys because I think this might be helpful to some of you guys who are recording drums at home and want to get some big sounds and kind of wondering how to get around things like hi-hat bleed, that sort of thing. Now I got my hi-hat over here. We're still using the hat husher, but the big change has been this. I'm using a Slate ML2 mic here on the snare top. Not only here, but I'm also using it on the bottom of the snare as well. So let me show you how to get a really fat snare sound with just those two microphones and one software compressor and do it completely in the box. Check this out. All right, so we're over at the desktop, and let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. I got this using the Slate mics and absolutely no EQ whatsoever. That is Slate mics and in-the-box processing. That's one compressor on a parallel bus. That is it. And I'm absolutely blown away that I'm getting that kind of a snare sound out of my tiny fucking drum room. I never get those kind of snare sounds, ever. Usually I gotta sit there and crank the living shit out of the top end on the snare top mic, but that's not happening here. And here's why. So we're using the virtual mics from... we got the ML2s, but we're using the virtual mic collection in a very cool way. On top here, we're using the 112, which is actually a simulation of a kick drum microphone of all things. And then on the bottom, we've got the Blackbird 251, which is a Telefunken 251. It's going to go for tens of thousands of dollars, but they just work so well together. If we take these off, it's actually not too bad either, but it just kind of rounds the sound out in a very pleasing way here. So the beef's here with the top mic, but we're adding the brightness with the bottom mic. But the real secret's going on over here on Drum Crush. We take this out. That's where the magic's really happening. And what this is I'm using the Pulsar 1178, which I demoed here on the show, I don't know, about maybe 8 months ago or whatnot. This is kind of a rare universal audio box that these guys modeled. Nobody else has one of these things, and it's absolutely stellar. For those of you guys wondering what's going on here, this is a custom setting I made up a few months ago. I've got my attack at 4.83, release is at 7, ratio is at 12:1, and I've got the warm saturation on. And whatever the hell it's doing it just absolutely rules on the drums. It's so big, it's so thick. And yeah, we can take it out completely if we want. We're going to bring the fader up and bring it in. So we've got a bunch of stuff going on here all at the same time, and this is where drums get interesting for mixing, because I kind of fell into this one on accident. Like, this is the first session I've done in I don't know how long. It was so nice to try out a few different microphones, a few different configurations, and try a few different ideas. We wound up going with the SR25s for the overheads from Earthworks. Then we went with a couple of Earthworks Omnis. But you see, I got the fader way down here, and a little pulsar on that too, just to kind of even it out. But it's a pretty small drum room that I've got. This is the first time I've ever got such a big tone of it. And here's what's going on here. I'm actually sending these mics at, negative 251 on the fader there to the drum reverb, which is the Valhalla plate. And this is a reverb that's going to cost you maybe $50. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. This thing is absolutely phenomenal. It's one of my absolute favorite software reverbs ever. It just sounds great. If you don't have it, grab it. It's simply amazing. So we've got the room mics going to that. And in turn, those are going to the Drum Crush. So they're getting compressed in that software 1178 alongside the snare drum. And a little bit of kick drum too. This is the weird mistake part of it. I don't know how the hell I wound up with this configuration. So I've got drum bus, and what that is my snare mics and my tom mics. Those are all going to one fader here, which is this. The kick is not, because I found when you throw the kick too hard into the crush, it just kind of squashes a little too much and it just makes it sound shitty. Now you can hear a little bit of kick drum in there, but that's coming off the room mics. And a little bit of bleed coming off the snare. But the kick is being sent to the crush as well. Right here by this fader. So if we've got this back almost 13 dBs. If we crank this up, you can hear it just get a little too squash sounding. It's not what I'm looking for. Like snappy. And we've got a little bit of EQ going on those right here. You can add a little bit more here. A little bit of 9K. And we've got a little bit going on at 7K as well. Maybe we can take that down a little bit here. Crank this up a little more. I like that. Maybe bring the snare down just a touch. There we go. Nice balance there. Yeah, you can crank that kick up quite a bit there. Maybe we'll take it up here. Output, that's what we're looking for. I don't know if there's a limiter on the back end of this thing or not. Maybe not. Might need a little L1 on this, on that kick, just to kind of give it a bit more boof. A little bit more poof or whatnot. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. This isn't a full-on drum mix. The whole thing I came up with this was because I've got all this amazing outboard gear, but you start running into latency when you start sending signals in and out of converters and all that kind of stuff. So I want to give the drummer a nice drum mix in his headphones that he could play along to really get him amped up and give him something he's going to love playing with. And this is what we got. And it was just with the most minimal amount of processing ever. I think I want to throw a little L1 on that. Let me just bring a little sub kick in there. Oh, that's even better like that. Yeah, now on the kick drum, we're using this Lewitt 640 Rex. It's got two elements there. It's got a condenser and a dynamic. And of course, we're using those amazing Pearl drums for this. Raw. That's what we're getting there. Now, normally my first choice for a kick drum is the Audix D6, but in this case, we're using the 640 Rex because this was more of a rock and roll kind of band, not a straight up metal band, and we weren't going for super click kick on this one. I think we're using the felt beaters. I'll be right back. Yeah, we were using plastic beaters, but we weren't going for a speed metal kick on this one. I wasn't really pushing that kind of sound. Now we're still getting a real nice attack on that kick. But I mean, like, ultimately the snare that's super overwhelming here. And once again, we can take that parallel crush down. All about just finding the right balance. Now, if you hear what's going on here, we do have a little bit of a ring going on that snare top. So I kind of go from kick to snare to kick to all over the place. But this is how I wind up mixing drums. I'll do a little bit of attention on one element, then move over to something else, and then come back and just kind of, move everything around. It's like moving the pieces on a chessboard. You don't do just one thing at a time. It's all about a strategy. So in this case, it's like you make a couple of moves and then come back to what you're originally working on. And it seems to work out pretty well for me. So yeah, I'm going to throw out the AIX drum EQ here. And what's great is it lets us localize what's going on here. And it's that honk frequency right here on the snare. So this is our fundamental frequency here, which is 177 hertz. And the resonant is at about 265, and that's that honk sound. I love the AIX drum EQ for this thing, just for pinpointing crap like this. So we're not using any additional EQ. We're just using a tiny bit of subtractive EQ. Because if we use additive EQ, watch what happens, especially start adding in top end. All we're doing is turning up the hi-hat bleed. Remember, we're getting our top end from this, from the bottom snare mic. I ran into this a couple of years ago where Jackson Ward sent me some stuff. He had like an AKG, 214 on the bottom, not the 414, but the 214. I just love the snare sound. And it was because he had that big honking large diaphragm condenser underneath the snare. And I've tried it in here and had mixed results. I've never really been happy with what I've got. But using a simulator with a mic that is built to take a pounding like the Slate ML2, it's got that switch to turn it into dynamic mode, but you can still emulate a high-end condenser with it. That is a really neat trick, and I'm really happy with the sound of it. Now, the only thing I might consider doing this snare, because like I said, I'm absolutely loving this. And like I said, if I was doing a metal record, I'd probably want to put maybe a little bit more snap on that kick. I might tune it a little bit lower, put a D6 in there. The Lewitt Rex is really great, but I think maybe even like a steel kick pad instead of, the Flam Slam pad I've got on there right now, just to give it a little bit more snap on the top end. Or just take that down. Because that just kind of rounds it out in a way I don't like. Oh, that's pretty punchy right there. Now we can take that snare reverb down a bit. That's just, once again, that's a lovely reverb. Now, like I said, the only concern I have is maybe a little bit of that hi-hat bleed if we want to clean that up. One I'd say is we go for the AIX multiband gate. This is still my favorite snare bleed killer ever. And they put a new interface on it. It looks a lot prettier than the original one was. We're going to set this up for hi-hat bleed destroyer. And wow, okay, we're just going to bring the threshold down a bit here. And bring the floor up a little bit too. So it's not completely annihilating all the bleed, because I want to hear a bit of that in the low end, because it kind of just helps the whole drum set gel together a little bit. See what we got here? So turn it off. What's the rating on that? Doesn't tell me the reading on that. That really cleans it up nicely, though. Let's make sure it's working well with that other mic still. Yeah, it went out of phase. So I'll throw the multiband gate on this as well, see what happens. There we go. Just to get the latency perfect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that off. Going to take the floor up all the way and just let that run together. So that way any ghost notes are still going to get picked up by that bottom mic too. Bring up the reverb a bit. Listen to that. And yeah, there's no more hi-hat bleed. Or at least ain't worth talking about. We're still getting the buzz off those ghost notes there. That's great. I haven't even tried mixing those tom mics yet. Yeah, the tom mics are the Lawton LS208s. That's what I'm using right now. I mean, I can't really see them needing too much. They're probably going to... Yeah, it doesn't need much at all. I mean, maybe let's roll off a little bit here. Give it a bit of 10K. Bit of compression. Let's see what we get. Dial this in. Let me just dial this in real quick here. Let's see what we're getting.
throw that on repeat. Roll off about 90, 100 hertz, somewhere around there. And we're only running two toms on this thing, so. So I'm gonna just pull this out. And we're just gonna drag and drop on here. There we go. Let a bit more bottom end on that one. There we go. A little bit more thump. That should work. Let's try that again. So there you go. Completely in the box drums, no samples, and that's got to be one of the fattest snares I've ever gotten in my entire career. I can't believe I didn't have to reach for a 10K. And I'm like, I got to admit, I was a little bit inspired by the guys on the Discord about this because when we did that Lewitt drum challenge there last summer, I put the tracks up and a lot of people were like, well, we knew it was you because you always add so much top end to your snare top mic. And I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. Okay, maybe I need to rethink some things. How can I get a fatter snare sound without having to reach for an EQ, but still get an articulate top end? And it seems like I've kind of just stumbled across this by accident. I'm definitely going to explore this a little bit more as I go along. But I gotta say, for all you guys out there who want to mic live drums and whatnot, wondering what you should get for your snare mics, I'd really recommend checking out those Slate mics because they're only $150 each. You can do your top mic and your bottom mic for $300, and then you get like their everything bundle for like $30 a month or whatever the hell it is, and yeah, you're set. The only thing I would recommend getting on top of that is the Valhalla plate and the Pulsar 1178. That's all I'm using here. Well, yeah, I'm using some of the SSL compressors too. Bottom line, though, is, I've got a lot of mics to play with here in the studio. I've got some beautiful Earthwork stuff. I've got some great Lawton stuff. This is a great snare mic as well. But in this particular case, we had some time during the session to experiment around a little bit and just see what we could get. And I remember I did the demo there on the Slate mics, a couple of years back with Cam Fleur, and I really liked the sounds that we got. And in this case, what these guys were looking for, a much more rock and roll rather than metal kind of setting. I'm very, very impressed with just how well the Slate mics turned out. So, hey, bravo to Steven Slate and co. You guys did an amazing job with this. And no, nobody's paying me to say this. I'm just really happy with the results I got, and the fact I didn't have to reach for a 10K on the snare mic just kind of blows me away because hi-hat bleed is not an issue here. The only thing I'm regretting about this recording right now is that I didn't mic the hats directly. Normally I just have so much bleed coming from the top hat mic I don't have to worry about it. This is a much cooler way of doing things. Now I need to get a mic on my hi-hat and run an extra channel. No big deal. Have to do that next time. Anyway, hopefully you guys found this video useful. If you did, please hit the subscribe button. I'll have some more coming up. We're going to be taking a look at a bunch of different cymbal types on how to record heavy drums, as well as different overhead types, and just show you how you can get a much smoother sound in a small drum room, because I'm sure that's how most of us are doing it, is small drum rooms, not big ones. And that's even if we can record real drums. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Thanks for subscribing, all that good stuff. I'll see you next time. In the meantime, yeah, go check out the Slate mics. They're fucking killer.